Good morning and welcome to ATN Blowout. Blowout is a syndicated live program of the network featuring chit-chatting and conversation on special interest topics, news, events and stories through correspondence reports, experts' opinion and stakeholders' analysis. Today we'll be looking at these stories. Borno State, killing spark fury, defense chief moved to Maiduguri. Emefiele trial, court finds EFCC for delaying ex-CBN governors' proceedings. Power sector, IHRC faults federal government's Aso Rock solar plan. And in politics, ADC faults Tinubu over UK trip. Still on Maiduguri, bombing, the silence is deafening. From Peter Obi. We are open for advert placements, bookings, and commercials. You can connect with us on our ATN socials, Facebook and YouTube at Atlantic Television Network, Instagram and TikTok at Atlantic TV Network 1, and on X at Atlantic TV Nets. Also watch us live on our website www.atlanticnetwork.tv. We're going for a short commercial break. When I return, I will introduce my guest for today. Please don't go away. Welcome back. Still ATN Blowout, having a discussion here with Mr. Uchewope. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
How do you do?
Very fine. I'm very fine.
Okay, good to finally see. The last time we spoke, I could not meet you in the studio, so.
Yeah. It's my pleasure being here too.
Okay. All right, let's get into today's details. Security chiefs have relocated to Maiduguri, the Borno State capital, to take charge of the security situation following Monday night's coordinated suicide bombings that killed 23 people and injured 108 others. President Bola Tinubu, who on Tuesday ordered the immediate relocation, described the attacks as a desperate and frantic attempts by terrorist elements under constant pressure from security forces. 3 suicide bombers detonated explosive almost simultaneously around 7:02 p.m. at the Maiduguri Monday Market, the post office flyover area, and the security post at the entrance of the University of Maiduguri Teaching Hospital. In a statement posted on his official X handle on Tuesday, the president mourned those who lost their lives in the attacks and commended troops for repelling coordinated assaults on military positions in the state. Tinubu disclosed that he has directed security chiefs to relocate to Maiduguri to take charge of the situation. Tinubu disclosed that he has directed security chiefs to relocate to Maiduguri to take charge of the situation. I think that needed to be stated twice, for emphasis. Now, it's a sad situation. Yeah. Would you agree with the president in saying that these terrorist elements, due to the constant pressure from our security, operatives, have become frantic and desperate in their attempts to, cause havoc to the states?
Obviously, the situation is sudden and it is causing a lot of havoc. So I agree completely with the president. you see, especially this time now, the federal government is making a lot of effort to resolve this insecurity problem in parts of the country, especially the northeastern part of the country, and this is happening at this time. So I agree with him. It is really causing a lot of havoc on our, the state of the nation.
We are known for giving medicine after death in Nigeria.
Okay.
One would have thought that, after the whole, I like to call it rejuvenation of our security, architecture, where some of the service chiefs were removed and replaced by new ones, considering the urgency of our northern, states, this service chiefs would have already been there, boots on ground, making sure that the right thing is being done. Sometimes that's what boosts the morale of the soldiers, the foot soldiers, the one on ground. When they see their supervisors, they see their heads with them, encouraging them.
But the soldiers there, they already have a commander now.
They have a commander, but if the service chiefs were also there, wouldn't have boosted their morale even more?
The service chief have, their role is for service for the entire country and not just particularly for Maiduguri. That is why they have at every state have its own command and leadership. You understand? It's unfortunate that this is what is happening in that particular state now, the Maiduguri, but then it doesn't mean that the service chief should just relocate to that place. We are focus. Okay, are you trying to say now that they should focus only in Maiduguri?
No, I'm not saying they should relocate. I'm just saying they could have visited the I call those places hot areas in the the hot areas. Have conversation with the officers, with whether the police officers, the soldiers, the foot soldiers, and whatnot. Sometimes sitting in the comfort of your office and then giving orders without being on ground to, personally witness what's happening. If you're on ground witnessing what's happening, it gives you a clearer picture on the way to go, right?
I don't think that over the years I've just been sitting comfortably, knowing the situation of that northeastern part of the country, Maiduguri particularly. They don't have to be there anyway. They don't have to live there or be visiting every time to know what is happening there. Considering the level of technology available for us today, you can get any information and give out any order. I think we are better. But this case now, it is saddening because federal government already, as we know, is making a lot of effort already to, especially under President Ahmed Tinubu, to see how we can reduce this insecurity thing in the northeastern part of Nigeria. But then this is happening at this time. So that is why it is called for that they should relocate there to match, this terrorists, to match them one-on-one and see how their presence can resolve issues. Because whether we like it or not, that security, the bombing have kept that place unsettled and residents will be living in fears.
Okay. So since you said it was not needed, is it needed now for them to be on ground to...
I'm not saying completely that it was...
Because I'm not really saying they should relocate though. The question is...
What I'm saying is that their presence has always been there.
Okay, their presence has always been there.
Given attention. Okay. And I'm sure that because they understand that that part of the country is a very hostile area, they will not just ignore it completely. You understand? But why I also mentioned that this time it is important they go there in person is because you mentioned that we keep administering drugs, medicine after death. You understand? That has to happen now because residents over there will definitely be living in fear, and will be unsettled. So the president of the security chief, will at least redeem some of the fears that would have been among residents there.
Okay. Now let's look at the frantic attempts by these terrorist group, suicide bombings.
Okay.
Would you say, we were trying so hard not to label this a religious attack, right? We were trying so hard, but we have we have Muslim or Islamic living in the northern states. We have Christians living in the northern states.
Yeah.
We also have other ethnic groups in Nigeria living in that northern state.
And we have other religious groups.
Other religious groups also living.
The African traditional religious groups.
Exactly.
Too, yeah.
But the religion, the particular religion is known for, suicide bombings. I mean, if you think about suicide bombings, what's the first thing that comes to mind? A Christian would be the last person that comes to mind. So in this situation, would you say that these elements...
However, while you are saying particular religion, I understand where you're going to. Trying to mention Islam, even if
I'm asking a question. If you think about suicide bombings, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Well, while we would think about Christian first, why would not think that it's a Christian first? That means we would definitely be thinking that it would be a Muslim. But at the same time, we are aware that the Islamic holy book, does not encourage killing. You understand? I'm not an Islam. I don't have an access to the Quran. Yeah. But I've met core Muslims, and we have read books too, we've watched in movies where we understand that in the core of Islam, killing is not, part of it. It's not part of their tradition, or should I say, culture. You understand? Even if yes, they are. It is. I'll call it rumor that when that in their religion or in Islam, it is when you engage in some level of terrorist act like this, you have some reward in heaven. But I don't completely agree to that, because of course, Islam is an Abrahamic religion, just like Christianity. It's an Abrahamic religion. At the time, I think 2 years ago, when the leader of the Catholic Church, the former Pope Francis, was alive, we remember when the head of Islam in the world, the head of Judaism, and the Pope met at Abraham's tomb. That should be 2 years ago. So that's to tell you that these three religions share things in common. You understand? So that there are some bad eggs or some people who just want to use the excuse of Christianity to commit some crime. Doesn't mean that it is an Islamic thing, or it is in their doctrine. You understand? Yeah. To engage in terrorist acts.
Okay. I think I understand where you're coming from. Okay. If you've actually clarified the situation, where I was coming to with that question is the fact that Nigeria has been labeled a country of particular concern due to the notion that Christians are being killed in the northern states. Right. So if we have Christians being killed in the northern states, if this is a religious killing, who would want to kill Christians in the northern states? As far as I'm concerned, we're all Nigerians. It does not matter your tribe. It does not matter your religion. We're all Nigerians. So any life lost is a life lost to Nigeria. It's an important life to Nigeria that has been lost. Okay, so in that I'm asking, looking at the global picture. Okay. If somebody outside of Nigeria should hear that there were a series of suicide bombings in Maiduguri, which is a northern state in Nigeria, where it has been widely noted to be, killing Christians, what's the first thing that comes to mind? We already have a situation on ground, a global situation on ground, where Iran, Israel, and US are at war. Okay. Do you understand? Yeah. And we've felt that this could, in a way, translate to insecurity in Nigeria. We've seen how sleeper cells are being activated in all parts of the world due to these incidents. So in this instance, would you really say that it's safe to say that this is not a religious killing? Because it was detonated in it was not in a church this time around. It was a hospital that harbors both Christians and Muslims.
And I was almost coming to that, because this one, at least, it wasn't in a church. It would have been difficult to say that it would be safe to say that it's not a religious killing if it was in a church. Yeah. You understand? But in this case, and again, we Maiduguri, I think, have more of Muslims residing there. So, I don't know if there's any record that majority of those who died or the victims, those who got injured, are Christians. You understand? Now, considering the fact that we have more of Muslims there, it's obvious. It could obviously be that we have had more of Muslims died in this bombing. Not
than
to say
Christians,
that
yes.
than Christians.
Yeah.
You understand? So, looking at it from that perspective, I think it is safe to say that it's not religious killing. You understand? But what I cannot be sure, what I cannot tell you for certain, is that is to tell you that what I cannot tell you for certain is what motivated this particular bomb attack. It could be political. You know, in Nigeria, we've always had this situation where, when we start approaching election time, people, I don't have any facts to that, but we are Nigerians, and we have been here, and we have seen it that the opposition, or people who do not like the government in power, instead of providing a viable position as it is supposed to be in a democracy, they try to see how they can undermine the government's efforts. And you must agree with me that this government is really making efforts, like President Tinubu promised from his inauguration time, to see how he can fight insecurity, and he's making a lot of efforts. So it could be that those who do not want him in government, or those who want to take over power by force in Nigeria, want to do everything to undermine him. It is a normal thing in Nigeria, or should I say it's almost becoming a normal thing, because we see it almost every time we are approaching election seasons like this.
Okay. I mean, it's quite unfortunate. My heart goes out to the people of Borno State who have lost their lives and family members due to this unfortunate incident. Moving on, a High Court of the Federal Capital Territory sitting in Abuja has sanctioned the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission over delays in the ongoing corruption trial of former Central Bank of Nigeria Governor Godwin Emefiele. The trial judge Hamza Mwazi on Tuesday ordered the anti-graft agency to pay a fine of 500,000 naira after it failed to present a scheduled prosecution witness in court. The development stalled proceedings that were expected to continue with the testimony of the next witness. The court heard that the EFCC was unable to produce a 13th witness identified as a police officer involved in the investigation. The prosecution counsel explained that the officer was absent due to administrative issues and a separate personal legal matter. Counsel to the EFCC appealed for an adjournment, stating that effort has been made to ensure the witness presence. He told the court that official communication had already been sent to relevant police authorities. However, the defense team, led by Matthew Bukar, strongly opposed the request. The defense argued that the prosecution had exceeded the number of adjournments allowed under the law. They insisted that the repeated delays were unfair and contradicted the earlier demand for an accelerated hearing. Mr. Uchis, it's Nigeria.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate that people have this notion that our judiciary is compromised and being used as a political tool, to fight opponents, to fight perceived enemies. In the case of Emefiele, we saw during the last election how difficult it was to access cash, and then the series of changing of the Naira note and the inconvenience it caused for Nigerians. I do not want to say the political elite too, because it was an election period.
Political elites had access to money.
They had access to money, but they felt like they did not have enough access to the money they needed for campaign and whatnot. And somehow of the notion...
No, they had access to money. What happened was that, it is still part of what we're talking about.
Yeah.
You understand? Emefiele, obviously, somehow it was rumored, was interested in that election. He was interested in the presidency. And when it was like he wasn't getting what he wanted, he started coming up with these policies just to frustrate, his perceived opponents. So you being an opponent too, you understand? I see someone trying to perceive you. Remember, it is politics. You understand? So you don't expect his own opponents to sit down. They will make it look as if they will also try to bring up a propaganda that will make the public have sympathy for them and make it look as if...
And what's this propaganda you're referring to? Was this propaganda that
it was difficult for people to access cash?
I mean, was it not difficult for Nigerians to access cash?
It was difficult for Nigerians, but it wasn't difficult for the politicians to access cash. The politicians had all their money in dollars.
Okay, so if you're saying, right, that Emefiele wanted to competes for the presidency, right? And due to his plans being frustrated, he in turn wanted to frustrate his perceived opponents and enemies.
And ended up frustrating the entire Nigerians.
Okay, and in the process, frustrated the entire Nigerians by making sure that it was difficult to access cash, and then the reprinting of the Naira notes and all that. So, I mean, that means that his opponents also felt the heat.
They felt the heat, so yes. Yeah,
they felt the heat as well.
Yes,
okay. So in this case, would you say that this is retribution for his actions by this administration? I mean, this administration was also contesting for the presidency, and it was a clear case of you against me. So now that this administration came into power, would you say that they are trying to pay back the good work of Emefiele during the last elections?
Well, I wouldn't say it is a payback. Because as far as I know about this administration, they are trying to see how we can revamp every sector, including the judicial sector, So what I see there, you cannot bring in the executive arm into what is happening with the judiciary. So it is a judiciary business. Emefiele should face his case after he suffered Nigerians, for his personal interests. So for me, there is no point bringing in the executive arm or the federal government. I
mean, I do understand that he was the ex-governor of the central bank.
Yes.
But do you actually believe that he could have done what he did without an oversight, without someone else pulling the strings or asking him to do what he did? I mean, there's no way that he can stand up one day and decide to, redesign the Naira notes or make Naira so scarce to the public. It should come from somewhere.
Like I mentioned, he was interested in the president. In fact, he wanted to contest for the. Or did he even aspire? He aspired, right? Yes, to contest for the APC ticket, the presidential ticket of APC in the last 2023 elections. You understand? So, if that is the case, he would have been. I don't think there is anybody who would have influenced him, or there's an oversight, somebody somewhere trying to convince him to do it that way to his favor. He did that for his personal interest. As far as I know, that move by Emefiele was for his personal interest.
Okay, and you don't believe that anybody was, instructing him to do...
Who would have instructed him?
I don't know.
He was the governor of the central bank, and he, as at that time, he was the authority in charge of the mandate of Nigerian currency, both in designing and whatever.
Yeah,
even
but
if that was
he didn't. Even as much as he was a CBN governor, I feel like certain decisions he could propose this decision, but without an oversight or a go-ahead. Do you think
and his position makes him influential in any decision that concerns Nigerian currency?
Okay. All right. Now, looking at the delays in his trial. Every human, every Nigerian has a right to defend themselves against whatever allegations is being relayed against them. The EFCC had, since he was arrested up until now, it was just like recently, a couple of weeks ago, that he was released from detention. Now, a federal high court, in its wisdom, has fined the EFCC for intentionally delaying the process of his trial. Again, do you not see any political maneuvering in the case of Emefiele?
Well, personally, I don't see any politics in this case of Emefiele. He's the institutions, which we have always clamored for, that there should be strong institutions. They should do their job. So the EFCC is an institution, the Federal High Court is an institution. So if the EFCC have crossed their boundary as an institution, and the Federal High Court being another institution that should, check them, because the EFCC comes under the executive arm of government, right? While the Federal High Court comes under the judicial arm of government. So, and they're supposed to check each other, check and balance each other. So, if the Federal High Court is, seeing anything wrong in EFCC delaying Emefiele's trial, and they are suing them.
They are fining
them, rather. They are fining them, rather. The EFCC as an institution will have to defend themselves. You understand? They have to defend it. They have to provide reason for what they have done. They should live up to responsibility as an institution. So there is no political undertone, to the best of my knowledge. To the
best of your knowledge, there's no political undertone. So you think this trial is being conducted in a very free, transparent, and fair manner?
Of course. Who would have been witch-hunting him?
I don't know. I'm here to ask the questions, so...
Okay.
Okay. All right, so... It's been 2 years and some months since his trial has been, been dragged on and all that. Don't you think, or do you think that it's actually taking longer than it's supposed to?
Well, it is an unfortunate thing in Nigeria that the judicial system, this has always been the case in the judiciary, where trials are being delayed. But now we are talking about it because it is Emefiele, who is a very important and influential public figure. The ordinary man won't have this opportunity.
True.
You understand? And that is where that is my own concern. Because I think it is time for me. Nigerians should stop bothering themselves about these big men and what they face. Yes, I was telling someone yesterday. We should be concerned about how government policies benefit us, how the dividends we get from government, and not when one big government official or politician or someone who was in government and later is no longer among that circle, is no longer in that corridor, begins to blackmail or start having issues, and you keep disturbing us every day with your personal problem. Whereas when you were in government, when it was comfortable for you, we didn't hear anything. You understand? So if it was an ordinary man, we wouldn't have been hearing it. It wouldn't have been on the news like this, or even if it's on the news, this level of attention wouldn't have been given to it. Or would the federal government have fined EFCC if it was a common person that okay, don't you also think that this federal High Court rather fining EFCC would have been a political undertone from Emefiele? Would the Federal High Court just be interested like that?
I mean, is Emefiele that influential to be able to?
He was a former governor of the central bank.
I mean, wouldn't you say in this? Yeah, he was a former
and he's
governor.
trying to somehow he's trying to redeem his image.
Okay.
So he can go any length through his lawyer. He has a team of legal advisors. They could come up with this strategy to say that now it is coming at the Federal High Court, not Emefiele, not his legal team. You understand? And what message do you think it will give to the public? Is it not to begin to sympathize with him that a government institution is independently? Do you think that the Federal High Court will just independently on their own, without any interest, start finding EFCC or start supporting Emefiele in this kind of case with no interest at all?
So what interest are we talking about here?
I wouldn't know, but I'm trying to tell you that in as much as I believe that there's no political undertone in the delayed trial,
but there is a political
undertone in Emefiele and the federal.
I mean, are you not contradicting yourself? Emefiele is quote unquote no longer influential, right? You could say he's a disgraced ex-CBN governor with what is happening, because the charges that were relayed against him is a lot. Do you understand? So it's safe to say that if he had any also influence, he wouldn't have been in detention for as long as he was, 2 years plus. He was in detention for, while the case was being dragged on. Could it be that in this case, if he was that influential, he wouldn't have been in detention for like 2 years plus? That's one. Secondly, in this case, would you say that the Federal High Court, in its wisdom, realized that this was unfair towards his human rights? Keeping someone in detention without, following up with proper trial proceedings. He's innocent until proven guilty. That's one. Now, if there's supposed to be a political...
Sorry, you said that it could be that the Federal High Court have seen that it is unjust to him.
Yes, his human rights. Whilst people
are
allowed, it's not like it's a capital punishment or a capital crime. It's a financial crime, right? We have laws. We know we're not lawyers, but we have laws surrounding financial crimes. As long as he could be a flight rate, obviously he's an influential man and a man of means, but is that enough reason to keep him in detention for as long as they did?
It is not enough reason, and I'm saying I'm also trying to make us see it that this is an unfortunate thing about our judiciary. And my point is that why would it be that it is in Emefiele's case that the Federal High Court will become interested? Are there no other individuals who have had this case of delayed trial? So
are you trying to tell me that there's never been other situations or instances where a Federal High Court, having realized that an institution had gone beyond
I can't remember anyone. I don't know if you can remember.
their privileges?
I don't know if can you remember anyone?
I can. Okay, no problem. I'm just asking you because
I cannot remember anyone.
You can't remember anyone.
I'm seeing
so Emefiele is the first man in Nigerian history to have done that.
I'm not saying that he's the first man in Nigerian history.
Okay.
You understand?
But what I do not understand is how Emefiele could be more influential in in this instance.
No, I'm not saying that he's
in terms of a political undertone.
I'm not saying that he could be more influential. You understand? What I'm saying is that this a man who has been the governor of Central Bank, whether we like it or not, he's a public, he's a very public person, and people would have benefited from him.
Okay.
You understand? And there are people who probably who are still benefiting from him.
Okay.
And those people, some of them could be found around the Federal High Court or have contacts and could be lawyers too, that decide to. I cannot because I'm beneficial. Sorry, I may benefit from somebody. I cannot because the person is no longer in power. I decide to abandon the person completely. Some of us, we stand still faithful in our support
and loyal,
and loyal, whether the person is there or not. So
okay,
that is the angle I'm coming from.
Okay. All right, we're going for a short commercial break. When I return, we will delve into the rest of today's stories. Please don't go away. Thank you for staying with us. It's still ATN Blowout. Fortunately, joining us in this conversation is one of our regulars as well, Dr. Henry Bassi. Good morning, Dr. Bassi.
Good morning, Asu.
How do you do?
I'm good.
Okay, it's good to have you
Thank you.
in the studio once again.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to the next story. International Human Rights Commission Relief Fund Trust has criticized the federal government's plans to power the presidential villa with solar energy, stating that the move suggests a lack of confidence in Nigeria's electricity system. In a statement issued on Tuesday by its country director in Nigeria, Abdullahi Bakoji Adamu, the group said that while the adoption of solar energy is not inherently problematic, the decision raises serious concerns about leadership, responsibility, and the message it sends to people. The group warned that such a move could undermine public trust, particularly if the seat of power appears to distance itself from the same electricity system used by ordinary Nigerians. The IHRC also stated that the decision runs contrary to the spirit of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended, which places a responsibility on the government to ensure the welfare and well-being of citizens, including access to basic infrastructure such as electricity. It further referenced global standards, noting that under the United Nations framework and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, governments are expected to provide conditions that support a decent standard of living. IHRC therefore called on the federal government to focus on fixing and strengthening the national power system rather than bypassing it. Let me start with you on this topic, Dr. Bassi. The federal government says that due to security concerns, right, it's unwise to have interrupted power in Asorok. So to solve this issue, the best way is to migrate to solar panel. Now, the International Human Rights Commission are also saying that what they're proposing sounds elitist. You know, they are trying to remove themselves away from the people's problems. And then the public is also saying that they've always known that when it comes to the government, the political players, the political leaders and what's not, they always seems to have, when it comes to the realities on ground for the people, they always seems to be away or moved away from the problems of the people. They do not have a hands-on experience on what the people are going through. And this, in this instance, it actually justifies that sentiment. Dr. Basu, what do you have to say concerning the situation?
Thank you. Let me start by saying that where I am residing, for the past 14 days, I do not experience a flash of electricity.
At all?
At all, for the past 14 days. And coupled with the high cost of a petroleum product. And you can imagine what some of us are going through, trying to make sure that you put one or two together. And if your income seems not to match with the responsibilities around you, it means that you'll be the most pitiable person. So when you look at what the International Human Rights Commission is trying to say, they face the fact and then expose it the way it should be. A government that is proactive, a government that cares for its people should know that whatever that is good for you is also good for the people. Some time ago, I listened to Babangida Aliyu of Niger State, former governor of Niger State. He said that sometimes it feels ashamed of drinking bottled water. That each time he goes out from his office and look at the people do not even have good water to drink. But for him, he's drinking water that made him to be healthy. Then, having said that, did he improve the life of the people of Niger State? The answer is no. He just thought that it ends there. And so the moment the president, budgeted for the installation of a solar system at the presidential villa, and that was when I knew that, look, the issue of power supply in this country will never be fixed. Because a government that cares will know that whatever you do, the people comes first. And so for me, it's not a surprise that international organization could say this. And the Constitution says that we are all equal before the law. So from what the president have done so far, it means that we are not all equal before the law. Some are more. Some are more. And that is exactly. So fixing this power, solar power at the presidential villa. In fact, that chapter of providing electricity for Nigerians is closed. Yes, it's closed. They will care less about it, since we have this, so why do we, please, Minister of Power, whatever you like, you can do. So, it sends a very wrong signal. Now, if we want to go green as it is directed internationally, fine. I have no problem with that. But it has to be holistic. Government needs to think outside the box and say, how can we make sure that within so and so time frame that Nigeria will go, green as it is expected within a so and so, time frame. Then, you start with yourself. Remember, the president says that, look, this is time that all Nigerians need to sacrifice. But Nigerians have sacrificed a lot. But what about him? What about his members of cabinet? What have they sacrificed to commensurate with the sufferings Nigerians are going through? I think sometimes let us live by what we say, not by what we do. Because we say a different thing and act a different way. And that's not how a nation should be governed, such as ours. So the president, going by the comment of the International Human Rights Commission, if we are all equal before the law, before you talk of doing anything to benefit yourself, what about the people you are governing?
Okay.
So do you think that they don't need electricity? Like I told you, last month I know how much I paid on the electricity bill. And yet, since this month, 14 good days. Who knows whether we will, be prospective in the days to come. Whatever. In fact, it's very appalling and alarming, when a situation like that happens.
It's quite unfortunate. Sir Uche, the Aso Rock presidential villa is a critical infrastructure, in Nigeria. It's quite critical. This is where decisions are taken. This is where security matters are discussed. So obviously, constant power supply is needed. But the sentiment is this: if the presidency is going to focus right now, their main focus right now is just the presidential villa, instead of fixing our power problems in Nigeria, wouldn't that remove them way away, far away from the hardship of the people? So now the people have this notion that these elites are far removed from their realities. They don't know what the people are passing through. They don't know what they're feeling. If Aso Rock should decide now to power themselves, whether it's due to clean energy and what's not, would that not be insensitive, especially at a time when Nigerians are going through economic hardship? We've seen high cost of fuel. We've seen high cost of living. We've seen how the people don't even have power supply in the first place. Dr. Bassi just stated that for the past 14 days in his community, there's been no electricity. So imagine his people, they're hearing that the presidential villa wants to have their own separate power supply away from the people. What kind of message is it sending out?
Okay, it is not true, it's not completely true that the president is not concerned about the lack of electricity in the country, and I don't also agree that the presidency just want to focus on themselves. When this administration started in 2023, we saw one of the first legislations, the bills the presidency signed into law, which was there anyway before he came, was to see how they can decentralize electricity regulation and distribution so that states, you know, can take charge of the distribution of and regulation of electricity in the different states, you know. And I think part of that is the alternative for the green energy, you understand, which solar is part of it, you understand. The presidency too have also made efforts to see how they can, you know, vote in some funds, you know, distribute funds to states and to this electricity sector to see that Nigerians have energy. Yeah, today, like you mentioned, we know the, you know, the importance of the Aso Rock, the significant position and the important kind of decisions that are taken there, which are equally for our own welfare, you understand? And this national grid, undeniably, have not been trusted, you know, and this is a place, the Aso Rock is a place that will need uninterruptible power supply. And then having it that Nigeria or the president or the federal government is equally bringing a reform in the electricity sector that will you know, allow us to have the green energy as an alternative. I don't think it's wrong that the federal government will start by example.
But is it not is a captain usually not the last person to leave a sinking ship? If the federal government wants to reform the power sector by introducing green energy and whatnot, is he not supposed to ensure that, first of all, the people have constant power supply? That's one. I mean, it's not after we've been able to have constant power supply that we can think about whether we should go green or not.
No, you know, but as a leader,
let's hold on. Okay. But let's just say it's important. Green energy is important for the health, for the well-being and health of the atmosphere and then the universe and what's not. We get that. But even if we want to introduce such policy, should the presidential villa not be the last place? No, I mean, to ensure that the people are comfortable. But if this in this instance, it seems elitist, because if Nigerians are suffering insufficient, like recently, we noticed that the federal government is actually thinking of opening up or supplying more power to the neighboring countries that have been relying on us for electricity. And then people are complaining, your people don't even have lights, you're already owing the Gencos trillions of nairas and what's not, and instead of you fixing your power problems, you want to still supply more to the people. Now, other than that, they also want to create a utopia for themselves by being away from the national grid. Is that not insensitive to the needs of the people?
The federal government is not completely want to be away from the national grid. You understand? But by showing that example, they are also trying to invite other big industries, private and government industries, encourage them about the use of the green energy, which is, because this thing have to start gradually. I know your concern is that it should start from the ordinary citizen, but we have to start from somewhere, and leadership should be by example. You understand? Okay. Now, if the Aso Rock is powered by green energy, the cost of powering Aso Rock would have been reduced by over 35 to 40%, and the money that would have been spent over time in repairing and paying electricity bills would have been also reduced and can be, put out to the those outside, residents outside, to enjoy it. And that way, it will equally boost the level of electricity provided by residents outside the Aso Rock. Okay. You understand? I'm not saying completely that this renewable, this green energy, the solar system, should not get to other ordinary people. But it is a gradual process. Okay. It's a gradual process. If the federal government have started, gradually we'll begin to see other government, if we have started with Aso Rock, you see that gradually you see other government sectors, ministries and parastatals, in their own buildings too, will be encouraged to begin to have, the green energy. And you see some heavy firms, industries, companies around too, and that way we will save more energy for the ordinary citizen to use. So it is not completely true that the federal government is being inconsiderate about the welfare of ordinary citizens.
Dr. Bassi, do you want to recap for us?
I want to
do you agree with him?
No. I want to sign an instances.
Okay.
A family, I have a husband and wife and the children, and you call your family members, including your wife, say, look, the way things are going, it's like we need to, cut our expenses in order to meet up. The same you that is instructing your family, to bear with you, to be able to meet up as a family. You went and buy a new car. You buy, in fact, the most expensive clothes for yourself. What do you think will be the response of your wife and your children? That's one. Two, when the president came on board, the capacity of Nigeria's electricity was about 4,000 to 5,000 megawatt. But as it stands now, it has dropped to about 2,730 megawatts. It means that when you look at the consumption of electricity, that megawatt alone cannot even go around the entire Lagos State, thinking about the population of Lagos State. The president that told Nigerians, look, because of how things are, please tighten up your belt. You need to bear with us. You need to also make sure that you sacrifice to some of the things that we need to do in order to get it right. The first thing the president did is to went and buy a private jet that costs about 150 billion naira. And that is a father that cares for his children. If you talk to, remember when I started, I said that for us to move from the toxic energy to the cleaner energy, for me is a good thing.
But we have to start from somewhere.
So if you have that in mind, must it come from you who ask us to sacrifice in order to help the country to grow? You first of all fix Aso Rock, which means that when you finish fixing Aso Rock, you will relax. They said the trial will convince. So what are you telling Nigerians? That is on that. Now, you also look at it that the laws that regulates the supply of electricity, have undergone some amendment through the parliament, the parliamentary processes. Will it end there? We are very, very. Some days back, I heard that the National Bureau of Statistics have come up with the statistics that Nigeria inflation, it's about 15%. And I ask, do these people go out to look at what is happening in our society today? So that your statistic on paper will be right, will be truthful. You see, if you want to power Aso Rock through solar energy, it's good. Please make sure that Nigerians are also getting the same thing. Then you start it from yourself and allow your children to suffer. Is that the decision of a good father? A father who cares? You want your children to grow? I mean, you see, let us think and think well. That is my position. Okay. It shouldn't be that every time we see, Nigerians are more informed currently than how it was in the past. And so if you think that there is information that should come through, from the government cycle to the people, and that the people cannot investigate to know the veracity behind such. It's just that Nigerian society respects the government so much, but the government does not respect the people. If they respect the people, most of the things that happen shouldn't be. You swore an oath to protect and make sure that the welfare of the people, move from point A to B. Instead, Nigerians are going backward every day. And you are telling us you care.
Okay.
Well,
so Uche, do you have...
Okay, well, you cannot say completely that Nigerian government does not respect the people. You understand? the federal government is concerned about this situation. That is why you see that. Remember that this situation did not just start with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. It has been there, and we must acknowledge the effort he has made, or the effort he's trying to make to see how we can revamp this situation. This talk of green energy, the solar power system, has been there. The electricity act bill he signed in 2023. He did not make. He wasn't the one that the bill was there. He met it in office and continued with what was there already. You understand? So, and this man have made practical efforts to see how we can redeem these things. And starting now, every time we talk about solar energy, and it is not no action is taken to realize it. And today, a man have taken action to at least start with Aso Rock. Okay. What I think is that Nigerians, I'm a Nigerian too, I equally suffer from the lack of power supply. So, but then we should be patient and see how. Let us achieve it first in Aso Rock. Okay. Let the thing see the light of the day in Aso Rock. Then let's see how we can move from Aso Rock to other sectors and gradually to ordinary Nigerians. And let us also be patient with them and see that, and see what power they will save from this solar energy, and how it will be how we can boost power supply to the ordinary residents, instead of just writing it off that the federal government is unconcerned and doesn't respect Nigerians. Thank you. That's my opinion on that.
Okay, gentlemen, your opinions have been noted. African Democratic Congress has condemned the bomb blast that struck Maiduguri, Borno State on Monday night, leaving 23 people dead and hundreds others injured. In a statement issued on Tuesday by Malam Bolaji Abdullahi, the party expressed sympathy with the victims and their families. The ADC also raised concerns about what it described as a lack of leadership focus at a critical moment, noting that President Bola Tinubu is currently outside the country, while senior officials responsible for national security are reportedly engaged in partisan political activities. According to the APC, the protection of lives and properties must take precedence over political distractions and diplomatic ceremonies. It's therefore called on President Tinubu to urgently return to the country and attend to his primary job of protecting lives and property. Dr. Percy, do you think this UK trip is ill-timed? I mean, I'm sure that the trip had been planned before the unfortunate incident in Maiduguri, but one will say that, yes, it may have been planned, but due to the current situation, it would have been better if the president had, cancelled the trip and then stayed behind and ensured that the people are protected. Others are of the opinion that, look, the most the president can do is give instructions or oversee what his service chiefs will do to ensure that the people's lives and properties are protected. Plus, this trip is quite essential to the economy of Nigeria. I mean, we talked about bilateral relations, When was the last time the president met with the King of England? I mean, this will go a long way to project Nigeria to the global world. But Dr. Bassi, what do you have to say concerning the trip of our president at this critical time?
First, I want to start by saying that diplomatically, Nigerians have signed many diplomatic ties. And guess what? Those signings have brought little or nothing to the improvement or development of Nigeria.
You think so?
Now, you see, when this bomb blast happened on Monday, to be precise, about, different media houses, some reported 23, some reports 26, as the case may be. These are Nigerians whose life has been cut short as a result of insecurity. Now, something happened some years ago, if not 2 years ago. The South African president traveled to an international event. On getting there, he got intel that, look, something tragically has happened in his country. Having arrived at the venue of that event, he had to, leave whatever that is happening there and return back to the country to face that problem and see what he could do as the president of that country. For God's sake, Bola Ahmed Tinubu is the president of Federal Republic of Nigeria. He's not the president of Bola Ahmed Tinubu's family. So he, by the virtue of our constitution, was elected by the people. And your service is for the people. And somebody will say, what about that, what he's going to, is it not for the benefit of Nigeria? Some people will say so. But when you have your house being on fire, and you're busy chasing wrath, than looking for a way to put off the fire. You see, like I said, Nigeria have signed many bilateral agreements with so many countries, not just with UK alone, with France and the rest of the countries in the world. But what has that translated to the development of Nigeria? Mm-hmm. Now, if the lives of Nigerians are more important to the president, honoring the invitation of the King of England, the King of the United Kingdom, is it far more important than the lives of Nigerians that are being cut short by the activities of this insurgency? He swore an oath to make sure that Nigerians are protected. And the case is obvious. It's very obvious.
Okay.
So this bomb blast, for sometimes now, I would not be hearing about the issue of bomb blast, than going to shoot periodically, kill Nigerians at will. But the bomb blast has returned. And this happened at the Borno State capital, Marketplace. So what are the steps, that the federal government, because we've been talking about this is not the first time that we ever discuss about the insecurity and the approach of the federal government, because they are in charge of security. The state governments are just there as figureheads. They don't have anything to command. Even the police, they can't do that. But the Constitution is tagging them as the chief security officers of their various states, of which for me, it's a kind of vague statement in the Constitution, when the president, command virtually all the military formations in this country. And so for me, if the strategies used by the government through its military formations doesn't yield the result of ensuring that this incidence of insecurity is curtailed to barest minimum, that means there is something we've not done. And I remember what the late former head of state said. He said, if an insurgency stays in a particular territory for more than 24 hours, it means that the hands of the government is part and parcel of what is going on. Now, does it mean that government has not been adequately or properly briefed on the activities of these boys who are ravaging especially the north, east, northwest, and even the north central as well? And let us not also think that to us who seems to have enjoyed, the freedom of movement here in the southern part of the country, that it may not affect us, or it will not affect us in time to come. It's just a matter of time. So I think that the federal government, because they have that constitutional power, though professionally they say that the issue of security, it's the business of everybody. But for God's sake, more rest on the arms of the federal government, because like I did say, they are in charge of security. So they must make sure that what needed to be done have to be done. Do they discover that, if they have discovered that the aspect of compromise from the military, then you need to find out who are involved in this. You get the right information and look for a way to dismiss them, because for me, if you allowed these people to keep doing the same thing every time, the result will also be the same thing. Now that I also read that he has, ordered the military chiefs to relocate to Borno State. The question Nigerians are asking, what are they going there to do? So for me, it's not about commanding the military formations, move, go. What are the strategies which is key to solving this problem? Nigerians are also saying that if we are running out of ideas on how to see that this war is won, can't we make sure that we contact other nations who face similar problems like we did here, and see how we can move up from here? And we are suffering from the issue of banditry, kidnapping, Boko Haram, name it, at the same time. And some persons are capitalizing on this. And to make sure that these areas mapping out for this insurgency are not safe, because as long as this continues, it means that there are some group who are benefiting from these killings.
Okay.
I think for me, if the ideas applied is no longer working, there should be a change of ideas and look for something that can work. Even if it's not completely eradicating the insurgency we have in this country, it can come to barest minimum.
All right.
You wake up one morning, five has been killed, 10 has been killed, 20 has been done. I mean, these are lives. These are Nigerians who have aspiration, who have hope. But their hope have just been cut short. So for me, please, they should think outside the box.
All right. Mr. Uche.
Okay.
Okay, do you want to continue from where he stated, or do you want to counter what he said?
No, I'm not countering what he said.
Okay, so should I ask my question then?
Okay.
Leadership presence is crucial at home during crisis. But the ill-timed visit to the UK by our president is being seen as being detached from the realities on ground. Dr. Bassi just made some, critical points where he stated that the South African president had once, noted that he had even traveled, but in this our country, our president was on ground when the issue happened, right? He was on ground. He saw what was happening. He saw the pain of the people. Do you think that if he had cancelled the trip, the UK would have understood his reason for doing that? But him still going ahead, to fulfill the UK trip seems insensitive to the needs of the people. At the time when the people, the Nigerians are mourning, don't we need our father on ground to commiserate with us?
Well, on that, what I would say is that, you see, what happened is very unfortunate, and it cannot be true that anybody will be happy about it. This involves loss of life. If anybody speaks in support of it, my people will say that a body in a casket may look like a wood until the person is really related to you. So everybody is saddened by the bomb blast, and Nigerians are very angry because this insecurity has been there over the years, and we keep hearing stories and the rest of that. However, this travel. Okay, you mentioned the issue of the president of
South African president.
South African president, who already traveled and got a signal that there is security situation in his home, and he returned back. Now, I'm not trying to compare the travels, but we should consider the significance of the nature of the travel. You understand? Nigeria and UK relationship is we've shared a long ties in different areas and sectors for a very long time. You understand? For over almost a decade now, this is the first time the Nigerian leader, the president of Nigeria, for almost 4 decades rather, this is the first time the president of Nigeria is having this honor and invitation to be hosted by the monarch, or by the British monarch, and his wife. You understand? So, and this plan has been there for a very long time before this bomb blast happened, and the president wasn't insensitive of it. The president have expressed sadness over this, and through his vice president Shetima, the federal government have sent sympathies to the families involved, and the body state government. And the president have shown action too by instructing that all service chiefs, just as he noted, should relocate to the scene, the terrorist area, the Meduguri, to see things for themselves and see what strategies we can use to tackle this situation. And again, don't forget that top on the list among the things that will be discussed in this travel will still be security issues, and this thing is happening at this time. So I'm sure that it will still offer an opportunity for the president to collaborate. This intention is to collaborate with our longtime friends, the United Kingdom, and expand collaboration with other international partners to see how we can end this insecurity thing once and for all. You understand? That we are not getting automatic results doesn't mean that there is no effort being made. Like you mentioned, that it could be that there are compromise. Dr. Bassi mentioned that it could be there are compromise within the military. These are things that gradually the federal government will unfold. One thing I see about President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is that he has been making deliberate efforts to see that some of these things are put to check.
Okay. All right. I would have loved for us to go further into this, but we are behind time, so let's quickly move on to the next story.
Okay.
Peter Obi, the 2023 presidential candidate for the Labour Party, has reacted to the Monday, March 16th multiple suicide bombings in Maiduguri, Borno State's capital city. Obi, in a post on X, said, "Nigeria is under siege with the horrific explosions and killings in Borno and other parts of the nation." Describing the incident in Maiduguri as tragic, the former Anambra State governor said, "These attacks serve as a painful reminder of how far the nation and its leaders have strayed from the fundamental duty of governance, the protection of lives and property." According to Obi, the fact that several innocent Nigerians can be killed in multiple coordinated attacks with over 100 others injured in vulnerable places like markets and near hospitals highlights a troubling reality. He also noted that these incidents not only test the nation's stance on security and its architecture, but also the very essence of leadership. The very essence of leadership. I think I like the angle he's coming from. How long do Nigerians need to hold on and live in fear of when the next attack could be? Dr. Bassi, in your last statement, you did mention that we've not seen these suicide bombings or bombings in a while. It's just been like periodic killings of people, bandit attack and kidnappings and whatnot. But it's been a while we saw something of this nature. The last time this happened, we saw a bomb blast in our federal capital, Abuja.
UN House to be precise.
Exactly. So now, people will now be wondering, if the suicide bombings or bombings have started, are we to now live in fear of when the next attack will be and where? Is this not a leadership problem in Nigeria?
Thank you. This Islamic sect that believe that when you die in the cause of fighting for Allah, you will move straight to heaven. And this is suicide bombers, those who careless about human lives. But I think, the essence of improvement of technology today is to ensure that some certain problems are being solved in our society. And that is why if you travel to developed countries and you see how the issue of security is tackled, it's not just giving command to the military formations, take up your guns, your van, drive into the scene and do one thing or the other. No. They sat down, study the situation. What technology can we, use to make sure that, because the issue of suicide bombing, didn't start in Nigeria. It started in other places and crept to the territory of Nigeria. Doesn't mean that we cannot, proffer solution to make sure that these people, are detected in our society through the use of technology. Like I did say that this war cannot be won when the use of technology is somehow being sidelined. because the one that involved the US, the Israel, and Iran, when you go through it and then try to analyze what happened there, you will experience the use of technology. That the US, didn't just station in Iran to carry out the attack, but they stationed in a nearby, country that is some few meters or miles away from the country, and they did that conveniently. But in Nigeria, do we have this in place to make sure that, because these boys are also thinking outside the box.
By these boys, you
I
mean
am telling you, the Boko Haram, yes,
okay.
of course.
All right.
They are thinking outside the box. They may see that, look, A, that is not sophisticated. They may even try to use weapon B or C that is more sophisticated than yours to make sure that they decimate you. But for you to outsmart them, you need to put people in place that can also outsmart them by thinking faster or smarter than them. So for me, we've condemned terrorism activities in this country so many times, and it keeps occurring. So how long? Well, this is the part of Peter Obi, the former governor of Anambra State, also condemning. When you look at most of the things, you say, fine, that it behoves on the head of the country, the government, to make sure
leadership and
of course, because
barrier.
Yes, when you have the good leadership in place, even let's begin from our family setting. When the family have a good leadership in place, the family enjoys the proceeds coming out from that leadership. And when you also have the other way round of leadership, expect the other way round too. So all I'm saying is that please, the federal government, through various ministries and military formations who are directly responsible. Yes, I know he ordered the military chiefs to relocate. But what strategies? I know that if you ask this, they will tell you that, look, the issue of insecurity is not discussed in the open. I know. But we've been hearing this, and it keeps occurring. Who knows what will happen in Adamawa State or in Yobe State that is closer to, this state, Borno State. And even the south, the northwest as well. So please, my friend talked about the president also being in UK, to discuss on how the issues of insecurity can be tackled. Let's tell ourselves the truth. Our president, I'm talking about, I think this is about 129 times he has traveled since he assumed office on May 29, 2023. This is 129 times.
Wow.
Of what benefits his travel has brought to Nigeria of about close to 3 years of his administration.
Okay.
Which has about a few months or a year to exit office. So for me, please, Mr. President, this is your country that you are governing as the man at the helm of affairs. Please do what is the needful to make sure that Nigerians are protected.
Okay.
Because that is the oath you swore to make sure that, in fact, let me tell us, aside from security and welfare, which other thing that is more important? Because the trees are not what we are talking about in Nigeria today. It is because of the people. It's not the houses. It is we human beings that put the structures that call houses, the bridges, everything you are seeing today that is being put in place. It is the effort of human. But if there are no human beings existing in the territory called Nigeria, Nigeria will not be there. So please, lives are more important.
Sir Uche, what do you have to say, to add to Dr. Basi's statement, especially when it comes to leadership, accountability, and also communication? I mean, there's a time where the people are living in apprehension and fear. So a few words, tweeting, on your social media accounts, is that enough information? Is that enough action to assuage the fears of the people?
The Twitter you're talking about is the one made by
No, not just Peter Obi. Even our president also tweeted as well, commensurating with the people. It seems like everybody takes to social media to make statements now, instead of properly addressing the nation.
He tweeted, because he already have a scheduled travel. But then the vice president, who is supposed to be in his state, have made moves by, reaching out to the Bonny state government to commiserate with them, to send his sympathy and sympathy to the families that were affected, what P2B is doing is not out of place. It is part of what Nigerians need, or Nigerian society need, because as an opposition, it is part of their job. I think it is a primary job to hold the government in power, or to call accountability from the government in power. So what he's doing is not out of place, you understand? But then, just discarding away the fact that the president shouldn't have embarked on this kind of historic travel. This travel is very important to Nigeria. Like I said, it calls for a wider collaboration. And, we've shared long ties of friendship with the UK, our former colonial masters. And this honor have not been done to any African president. I don't think any African president has been hosted at that Windsor Palace by the British monarch for a very long time, So it is an honor that also signifies that Nigeria is still recognized as part of the countries that are within the circle of power.
Okay.
You understand? So it brings back hope to the people. And like I mentioned earlier in our earlier conversation, that part of what is on the list for discussion is how to collaborate to end this insecurity completely. No nation can exist on isolation, just as no human being can stay on isolation. You understand? So we'll see how these discussions will benefit Nigerians. But it is not true that the leadership will be very insensitive. We'll see the strategies the service chiefs will come up with.
All right. Okay. On this note, once again, my heart goes out to the people of Borno State, especially Maiduguri, who have lost loved ones due to the unfortunate incidents. Gentlemen, thank you very, very much for your keen analysis and then insights to today's conversations.
Thank you for having me.
Okay.
Mr. Uche, thank you as well.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
All right, this is where we wrap it up on this episode of Blowout. We are open for advert placements, bookings, and commercials. You can connect with us on all our ATN socials, Facebook and YouTube at Atlantic Television Network, Instagram and TikTok at Atlantic TV Network 1, and on X at Atlantic TV Net. Also watch us live on our website, www.atlanticnetwork.tv. Remember, peace and unity are the pathways to progress. Open conversation comes up shortly. Please don't go away. Thank you for watching. I am Antonia Arsabil.